But today I want to be a lot more practical. We're in the third miracle of the 7 miracles that are portrayed in John.
Come on.
And of course the first one was the great wedding, the first miracle, the wedding there in Cana. We learned some things. Now remember, with the miracles that Jesus performed, there are 2 things that come along with them. Of course, there's a purpose in it. They help heal the individual or the individuals that are receiving the miracle. But in every one of them, there's a message behind it. Jesus did not do miracles haphazardly or just randomly. Now remember, we learned too, and I'm going to repeat this because I can tell by the look in your eye from the communion and the contribution, there's some application that needs to still take place. We've been in a series of revival. And we're learning about miracles and how they happen through our faith. And so if there's not a sense of fervor and zeal and victories and miracles happening, I have to ask the question about application.
Come on, see.
And so I want you to understand, Jesus does his miracle, as John 2 and verse 30 tells us, so that we may believe and have life in him. Yep. We learn also, too, that Satan does miracles. You guys need to go do a Satan study or something. Come to believe in that he exists, that he is active, and he is on the warpath for your soul. I don't care how good you think you're doing, he is after you. Just like we're trying to evangelize the world, so is he. But when he does a miracle, he is doing it to deceive you, to keep you from believing or accepting or obeying the truths of God. So the 2 happen. The 2 happen. And we know that whether it's a revival or miracles, we know that what has to happen is a satisfaction by God for his righteousness. We have to deal with what he demands of us. You can't be in sin and get a miracle and say God did it.
Come on, bro.
You can't be living out of whack and out of the scripture and say God blessed me.
Come on. That's right.
You got to be careful with that. So you got to ask again. I'm really after application in this lesson today. Okay, I'm really after application because we have work to do.
Right. Come on.
And this church has been this size and this way for too many years.
Come on, bro.
In that wedding we learned 3 things. We learned that if miracles are going to happen, we have to invite Jesus to be Lord of our life.
Yeah, that's true.
He must be Lord of our life. Secondly, if we have an issue, if we have something, we must take our need to Jesus. And thirdly, we must be obedient servants. We learned that, didn't we? We must be obedient servants. Some of us want that miracle, but we don't want that obedience. Give me all you got, Lord, but I'm not giving you nothing in return. Or at least I'll give you what I think you're worth. In the second one, with the royal official, we learned another 3 things. We learned, number 1, how people start in faith most often as crises. Oh, my son is sick. Oh, something's happening. Oh, I need Jesus. How many of y'all been there? Don't lie to me today. You know, most of you came to faith that way. You was looking for Jesus. You was looking for Jesus not because you was doing well and wanted to tell him how well you were doing. You were looking for him because you weren't doing well and you needed help. You needed help from him. So crisis faith. We learn about that crisis faith, and that's okay to start there. He says, "Bring it to me. I got you." Yeah. But we also learn next. Then we can be kind of in that, I'm not sure, that limited faith. Let me see, because remember when the royal official, Jesus said, "Go, your son will live." And then he took off, and then he was met by his servants. He's met by his servants, and then they told him, "Your son has lived." It has left him. And the word "left" there does not mean like kind of left or in recovery. It means instantaneously it was gone. All of Jesus' miracles are instantaneously. They don't require a rev up.
Right.
He speaks it like he did the world in existence. He says, "It's done, it's done." He said, "Go, your son lives." But the guy said, what did he do? He goes, What time was it? His faith wasn't all the way there yet. And he had to have this more proof. What did Jesus say in the other ones? In both of these two miracles, he says, man, unless you see, you just won't believe. And yet we are called to walk by faith and not by sight.
Come on.
Could that be why some of you haven't gotten your miracle yet?
Ooh. Ching.
You're walking by what only you can see.
Come on, bro.
But we see that this royal official learned his lesson. He went home, and his whole household came to believe. Household is that sphere of influence, is that whole around you. So the question is, if you've matured, now that's the third one, mature faith, then people around you in your life that you touch, that you're with, should be coming to what? Believe. It is a sign, is it a mark of our faith when others come to believe. So today we come to our third miracle. And we turn over to John chapter 5. And let's pick up reading here the story of this lame, paralyzed man. I think his story may remind some of us of ourselves. You say, I've never been paralyzed. I beg to differ.
Come on, bro.
Sometime later, verse 1. Sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish festivals, and they were all gathering there in Jerusalem. There was always a festival, at least 3 of them, that signified the Passover, the freeing from slavery, and so forth, that brought them to Jerusalem. We don't know which one, but it was one of the Jewish festivals. Now there in Jerusalem near the sheep gate, a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, the paralyzed. One who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. Can you imagine? Wow. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, do you want to get well? Now I love the grammar of the Bible because it gives you the punch. He recognized the guy that had been there for 38 years and everything, and then it's, do you want to get well? Sir, the invalid replied, I have no one to help me into the pool. When the water is stirred, while I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me. Then Jesus said to him, get up! Exclamation point. Pick up your mat and walk. At once, the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked.
It is.
The day on which this took place was a Sabbath. And so the Jewish leaders said to the man who had been healed, it is the Sabbath. The law forbids you to carry your mat. But he replied, the man who made me well said to me, pick up your mat and walk. So they asked him, who is this fellow who told you to pick it up and walk? The man who was healed had no idea who it was, for Jesus had slipped away into the crowd that was there. Remember what we said, Jesus never bought fanfare and never looked for entertainment value or anything. He did what he did, and he wasn't looking for anything from us. Later, Jesus found him at the temple and said to him, see, you are well again. This will become significant. Stop sinning, or something worse may happen to you.
Yep.
The man went away and told the Jewish leaders that it was Jesus who had made him well. You know, I do appreciate what Pat was talking about and sharing his own story, but I don't think he only one has a story to share. You know, I typically come up here and share whatever I have going on in life with you as well. But let me tell you something, if you don't cut it out, worse things will happen. But let's get to this story. Here's Jesus. He comes up to Jerusalem. Jerusalem is surrounded by many gates. The gates are there. And the gates are named usually by what its function is. So you got the horse gate. What goes in there? The horses or whatever, fish gate. You got that going on and everything. They got a dung gate. I don't really know what all that one's about, but hey, man. But then we come up on the sheep gate, and this was where the sheep would go in, and they were going to be slaughtered. This is where they went in, or sacrificed. These were the sheep that went into this gate. It's kind of ironic that Jesus would enter into this gate. And I think of the passage. Look, behold, here comes the Lamb of God. Amen. Who takes away the sin of the world. And he walks into this situation where he's seeing all of this sickness and disease. And they're paralyzed. And it is hopeless. And he walks amongst it. And that's how he walks amongst us. You got to picture the scene now. It is utterly hopeless. You know, I don't know if you've ever been to a nursing home. Anybody ever been to a nursing home? Yeah, they're not fun places to go, and you go and you visit a nursing home, and you know, even when even you guys remember my mom was in that rehab, that place for over about a year, and it was a pretty nice one, you know, and yet and still when I would go there to visit, it was just very hard to see what I saw. It was all kind of ailments, diseases, of aging, and of whatever was going on. The difference was, imagine, at this place there were doctors and nurses that were nice, and things were good, and food was being served, and things were happening like this. But imagine walking into a scene like this, but there's no paid help, there are no nurses, there are no nothing. Jesus just walks in on this situation. Can you imagine how horrific? How horrific it been. Now Jesus sees this one man that has been there for 38 years. 38 years this guy has been sick. Can you imagine having an ailment for 38 years? That would be a rough thing to do. Now he is paralyzed. He's lame. He can't walk. He can't get up. He can't do for himself. He can't do anything at all. But Jesus picks this man who is experiencing really being hopeless.
Wow.
Now, as I'm telling the story, I don't know if you're getting into the picture. I don't know if you're picturing yourself. But by the time we're done, you're going to have three things to do to be well. I want you well today.
Come on, bro.
Now, verse 14 tells us that this man may have been sick because of his sin. We find that after he's healed and he goes to the temple, at least he has enough sense to receive this blessing and then go off to the temple to worship, to talk. I mean, he has some kind of, gratitude with him. And Jesus goes there. Jesus, after slipping in the crowd, now ends up in the temple, and he sees him. He says, "Oh, I see you are well again. I see that you are well again." And he says, "Well, stop sinning, or something worse may happen." Now, I pose to you another question. What could be worse than being paralyzed, lame, and can't do for yourself? Jesus wasn't talking about another physical issue. Stop sinning, or something worse will happen. In other words, stop sinning, or you will lose your salvation. And it's a picture moment here. Because you can imagine the guy. He's in the temple. He's healed now. But somewhere Jesus saw something. He says, "Stop it. You stop. Don't play with me this time." We play with God too much.
Yeah, come on, bro.
We keep him in the fairy tale realm. And yet he's very much a reality. Very much a reality. It reminds me of Israel. Israel was picked to be God's holy people. That was the people of God. But they have turned on him since day one. He brings them out of Egypt, frees them from the bondage of slavery, and all they do is what? Complain and turn on him and disobey him and do all these things. And yet Jesus has to forgive them, and God has to forgive them and love them. But they keep sinning against him. And so there's the story of they go through all this, and they're now approaching to come to the promised land. And before they go in, now remember they had been promised everywhere that they would step their feet, they would possess. Yeah. You guys remember that? Yeah. All right, some of y'all got to know some basic Bible now. Okay? I went back to first grade. All right, so get to reading your Bibles and we'll catch up. So in this story here, 12 spies are sent out. 12 spies are sent out. 10 come back scared to death, give a negative report, and just mess everybody up. 2 come back with a faithful report, remembering the promises of God, knowing and remembering how God has gone out before them and has always gone out before them. And they say, we can take them. And of course, that was Joshua and Caleb. They said, we can do this. I don't care how big they are. And they got some big food. We can get this, boy. We can get this. But because of this doubt that these spies, that the fighting men of Israel had, and the continuous pattern of sinning against God and doubting God's promise, that is probably the second biggest sin you can do, is to doubt God is truthful and trustworthy. Wow. Turn over to Deuteronomy. Let's see what happened to him. Deuteronomy chapter 2. Turn over with me, please. Deuteronomy chapter 2. Verse 14. And I'm just trying to help you see a little parallel with something right here. Ironically, it says 38 years pass. We got this paralyzed dude sitting there for 38 years. Who we know sins, and partly his problem is because of his sin. And right here we read in Deuteronomy, 30 years passed from the time we left Kadesh Barnea until we crossed the Zid Valley. Now remember, they were going to wander in the wilderness here. They were going to wander. That's maybe a couple weeks walk for them, and yet they had to wander in the wilderness. One thing to wander, but then when you got to wander in the wilderness is crazy. The desert ain't no place you want to go hang out. But he said, you're gonna wander, and for 38 years, he says, by then the entire generation of fighting men had perished from the camp as the Lord had sworn to them. The Lord's hand was against them until he had completely eliminated them from the camp. So they too, 38 years, wandered in the wilderness of hopelessness and helplessness because of their sin. And there's a good argument that's what's happened to this man. And they did it, and not even Moses could help them. And here it is by this pool that he was by, there's superstition of it, that an angel would come down and stir the pool, and the first one who could get into the waters once it stirred would be healed. Now I was thinking to myself, 38 years. I don't know how many weeks that is. I don't know how many, months, days, and something. But in 38 years and all that time, somehow, one of them times, I'm going to make it in that pool. I have to wonder what was going on that he couldn't get to that pool. I mean, if you can't walk, you can roll. I'd have been rolling my body over. I'd have been rolling. But I'd have got in the pool somehow. I'd have gotten my healing. I'm going to get my blessing. But time and time again, Israel acted in his way, and time again, the wrath of God, and often he forgave them until they were no longer his people and a new covenant came about. But what was the issue? Israel was his people. They were to be holy. What's the issue today? Why are miracles done? Why are we saved? What is the greatest miracle? Salvation. Why is it done? Why are we saved? It is so we can represent God to a dying world. We are to be holy because he says he's what? holy. Be holy because I am holy. So there's a purpose when the miracle of salvation done in your life. There's a purpose when the miracle is done physically in your life. When something manifests itself supernatural in your life, it wasn't done just to please you. It was done so that you could please God with your life after the miracle. It should lead to a changed life.
Yes. Come on, bro. Come on, brother.
It should lead to it.
You got that right.
It should lead to it.
Yeah. Yep.
It should change you. And the change is evident.
Yep.
I often wonder to myself, why do people make up their own purpose in life instead of accepting the one God has given them? You know, I was born to be a lawyer. I was born to be a doctor. I was born to be this. You just don't know, man. God put me on this earth for this. God gave me this. You know, you're making up all kinds. God ain't never told you that. He ain't never once told you that. You ain't never once read it. Not one time. You ain't never read you're supposed to be rich. Well, you know what? That's my purpose to be wealthy because I'm going to help people with it when I get there. Once I get wealthy, God ain't told you that. God's great commission was go and get an education. Go and get a wife and a white picket fence. Go get 2.5 babies and make 6 figures. God never gave you that purpose. He said for you to do what? Go and make disciples.
Come on.
Some of y'all going in the wrong direction. Y'all tied up in so many things, sucked up in so many things, distracted by so many things, but you ain't doing the right thing. And God said, go. I have given you purpose. Could it be your miracle's not there because you won't obey? Could it be what you really need in your life ain't there because you won't be obedient? Could it be you are the problem to your own miracle?
Wow, come on, bro.
You're not given things just for you. You're not made whole and prosperous just for you. You're not made strong and mighty just for you. You're not made talented and you're not made all the great things and gifts that you have. The beauty of your life, the beauty of who you are, that's not just for you. That is to be used to carry out God's plan to save the world. Now I ask you, how are you using your gifts? Some of you may be using them well, but judging by the silence that just happened, I ask you, do you want to get well?
Come on, bro.
Do you want to get well?
Yeah. Come on.
Remember, the purpose of the miracles is so that we might believe.
Yes.
But then so that we might have life in him. Not that we believe in him to give us a bunch of stuff. Do you know, he said, I want you to have life abundantly. And that's true. I mean, I don't think God wants anyone to suffer. I don't believe that. Not for a moment. But that's his choice. But when you believe God in him because of what he can do for you, instead of believing because you know him, then you're setting yourself up.
Wow.
Just like the Israelites roaming in the desert, Moses could not end their plight. It was God. He said, now I'll heal you. It was God. For this man, if you notice, he didn't even get in the water.
That's true.
The water couldn't heal him. Water's always represented life and things like that. But the water couldn't help him.
Wow.
He needed Jesus. The water did not speak to him. The Lord did. When the Lord asked him, do you want to get well? There's a deeper question there. If you're sick and if you're lame and you get asked, do you want to get well? The obvious answer would be, I want to get well. If you're starving and actually you want to get something to eat? Yeah, I want to get something to eat. But there was a deeper meaning. When I was young and got in trouble a lot, my mama would say, do you want a good whooping? Now I knew what she was saying, right? You better cut it out, right? Because first of all, I ain't never had a good whooping. I ain't never had you want a good spanking? Is there a good one? Yeah, give me the good one. I'll take the good one. Because the ones you've been giving me ain't good. Let me have the good one. But it's odd that this man had been lame for 38 years and someone had to ask him, did he want to get well? Perhaps it's a harder question than we think. So much of spiritual and physical sickness that we have, and someone will get mad at me, is your choice.
Yeah, that's right. Wow, come on, bro. Talk about it.
We choose to stay sick and hurt. Some of us, we're right now involved in ungodly relationships.
Yep, talk about it.
We choose to get hurt. Some of us abuse our bodies with pills or whatever it is you do to the point of destruction.
Talk about it. Come on.
We have chosen to be hurt. Disciples refuse to seek God with all their hearts every day. We have chosen to be hurt. Many of us struggle with seeking the kingdom of God first when He's promised to give you everything you need. We have chosen to be hurt.
Come on, bro.
We cheat God in our giving. We have chosen to be in poverty. We're unwilling to be a witness publicly and boldly in our workplaces, in our schools, in our relationships. How many times I've killed this sign? You want to get it? It's coming off. Can somebody get it before it drops this time? We have chosen to lose our faith. Do you want to be well? It is a great question. But I ask you, how long will you deny the answers to what you need? It's sitting right in front of you. Now, it's interesting to me that Jesus, out of all these sick people, only chose one to heal. Now, it could have been that Jesus knew this man. Could have been another reason. But what I do know is this man didn't go to Jesus. He didn't ask Jesus for help. He didn't even know who Jesus was. But Jesus is all-knowing. He knows our needs. Even if you here today don't know Him, He knows what you need.
Come on. That's right.
I want you to understand three truths from this story today. Three truths. Here's the messages, the message behind the healing, the miracle. So we know what Jesus did, and Jesus didn't make a hoopla. He did the same thing. He did it with the royal soldier. He said, "Go, your son's living." And right here with this paraplegic, he says, "Get up, take your mat, go walk." And you can imagine these legs that have had this infirmity for 38 years, how skinny they must have been, the atrophy that must have taken place, the deformity that must have come with it, and all of that and everything. Them things probably crinkled up and everything else. He says, get up, take your mat, and walk. And dude got up and walked.
Like that, right there.
Don't say he had no limp or nothing, just got him walk. And he headed straight to the temple. But I think there was some stuff still in his heart, because when he got there, Jesus saw him and said, I see you well again. That's a weird statement as well. I see you well again. He already saw him. Like, look what you did. Look what I did. I already fixed you. But he makes this statement. There are three things, three truths I want you to see for this passage. Your practicals today, if you want to get well. Can I give them to you?
Please do.
Because I'm not sure this man wanted to be well. Number one, before you can change, before you can be well, you must decide if you really want to be well. That you're willing to do whatever it takes. Jesus is asking, do you want to get well? Clearly, Jesus wanted him to think about it. Jesus wasn't talking about fixing his legs. He was talking about cleaning them up. Do you want to get well? I believe there's some thoughts that we need to deal with today. This man had been living off of donations and whatever he can get his hands on for 38 years. Obviously, it didn't work. Obviously, he was getting something because he's alive for 38 years. He had some coming somewhere, and he didn't work for nobody. So he was living off the donations of others. It is so easy to get comfortable in our sickness. And if he was healed, he would lose the donations, the easiness of it, the pity of other people. Sometimes I want to look on us that way. Now I know this sounds horrible, but in some third world countries, what they would do is parents would hurt their children, cripple them or blind them and do certain things, so they would go on the streets and beg and get the money. And they would not want them kids to ever be healed, because they would do what? Lose the money. If this man was healed, he would have to take responsibility for himself. Some people are comfortable that way. And they don't realize and never give consideration that God has something so much better for you. And they're satisfied just getting by. I see it all the time. People hear the gospel, maybe even get excited about it when they first hear it, but didn't they realize that it does take work to be a Christian, and they don't really want to change that much? I got to give up my sins. I got to give up that immorality. I got to give up that lying, that stealing, that addictions to everything, and all that's going on. Man, you mean I got to really sacrifice? I don't know if I want to be a Christian.
Wow.
I don't know. I don't know if this Christian thing is for me. I don't know.
Keep it real, see? Good stuff.
I don't know if I can do this. The real statement is, I don't know if I want to do this.
I don't want to get well. There it is.
I don't want to be well. You want to get in shape, you want to get healthy, you got to change your eating, you got to change your habits.
Right. Come on.
You want to upgrade your life and stuff, usually you got to go learn a new skill, get an education, do something.
Amen. Come on.
You can't keep doing what you're doing and expect something to get different. You got to do something different. And I think a lot of people are just like this dude, sitting in front of a pool of health and won't get in. Well, number one, you got to decide if you want to change. Number two, once you decide that, in fact, you do want to change, then you got to make a second decision. You got to stop making excuses.
There it is, right there. There it is.
You got to just stop it, making excuses. Notice what this guy does. When Jesus says, You want to get well? He doesn't say yes. He doesn't say yes, help me. He doesn't do any of that. He starts off, sir, every time I try to get in the pool, someone beats me to it. Right away, he starts making excuses and complaining as to why he can't get in the pool. Now, here's a funny thing. I believe this, right? So I'm sure, people was getting healed, there's moving, he's inching up the line somehow, inching up the line. I believe all they do is just fall in the pool. I believe he could just fall in. I mean, nothing's stopping him. He could just fall in.
Not rolling.
But dude would not go in. He making excuse after excuse. He gives a long list of his troubles. Have you occurred that a lot of people that are complaining just enjoy complaining? Why? Because they see themselves as a victim. A victim to society. A victim of the upbringing. It's their mom and daddy fault. They have convinced themselves that everything that is happening to them is somebody else's fault. It's the church's fault. I'm not getting fed. I just can't be the one to blame. And on the surface, you can't help but feel sorry for this man. He's all alone. There's no family there. And we know he's lame. He's lonely. And he says, I have no one to help me. I can't do anything. Nobody will help me. And God's not doing anything else for me either.
Wow.
Do you want help?
Come on, Cory.
He could have asked Jesus.
Yep, that's right. That is true.
But he didn't. Well, let me tell you, there is help. There's the Bible that you hold. There are brothers and sisters in your life.
Amen.
And there are God himself. And for you disciples that are already healed, you just need to do what you already know. Point number 3, in closing right here. Well, you decided you want to be changed, and you're not going to make no more excuses about it. Now you got to take action. You got to take action. Now remember this, in verse 8 and 9 we read that when the man was healed, he was not healed by this water. Jesus said to him, get up, pick up your mat, and walk. Now, obviously, this man had a choice to make. He hadn't moved those legs in 38 years. The toes don't work. There's no twinkling. There's nothing. He had to make a choice. He told me to get up. Now, I got to decide, am I going to look like an idiot or maybe be an idiot for trying to get up, but I can't get up? He had a choice to make.
Wow.
He heard it. He could have listened and just ignored it. He could sit there and wish someone would do it for him. Or he could listen to Jesus, take him at his word as the royal official did, and get up and take that mat and walk. Today and every day of our lives, I have a choice and you have a choice. Do you want to get up and do something? Or is it easy just to stay right where you're at? I don't want to stay sitting on a mat of trouble.
Right.
Wow.
Not Cory.
Picking up the mat and carrying off is a sign that says, I will make no provision to go back. I will walk. This thing will never be on the ground for me to sit on again. Many of you, if you're going to be well, have got to cut the bridges of doubt, the bridges of lack of commitment, the bridges of worry, the bridges of greed, the bridges of wickedness. And you must burn them
Yep, come on.
So there's no possibility to go back to the mat. The mat represents your sickness, your sin. Some of us have gotten up off that mat and we've walked. But remember verse 14 when he saw him in the temple. Stop sinning, something worse can happen. He's not just talking about the mat you could be laid back upon, but the loss of your salvation as well.
Yeah.
All of us are sinners. We make mistakes.
Come on, see.
It's not like we don't know what they are. Now, one person here needs a scripture read to them about the sin that you may be in or have done. It's something innately in your conscience that even when you sin, you know you did wrong. So if you want to get well, you got to pick up your mat and walk. The guy did some things right here. He did eventually, we see here, identify what he wanted. Yeah, he wanted to get well, so he obeyed. He wanted to get well, so he stopped blaming others. He stopped doing what Adam did. That woman you gave me. Students in school, my grades are here because my teacher don't like me. I'll be further in life, but I wasn't raised well. We just have a very hard time saying these words. I was wrong, I am responsible, and I need help. Today I invite you to get it right, like this man. To get it right. Ask for help. Ask whoever brought you here today. Ask who's ever in your life. Help me. Jesus always told people to do something to get their healing. The withered hand, stretch it out. The blind man, dirty eyes, go wash them. And with this guy, Jesus said, pick up your mat. Is it possible Jesus wants to make you well today? Don't settle for second best. Don't settle for second best. Pick your mat up as quick as you can and get to stepping.